How we doing, everybody? Welcome to the show. My name is Bo.
I'm Jamie, and this is
Adjusting to Life, a chiropractic married couple's take on life, love, business, parenting, all the ups and downs, mess ups, screw ups, funny, sad, happy moments, everything in between.
Yep.
Well, welcome to the show, everybody. Adjusting to Life, podcast for parents just trying to figure it out, how to run a business, how to be parents, role models. Today, we're talking about how to be a power couple. Again, we might not be the power couple, but we are working on it.
We're trying our hardest every day.
That's the point. Do your best. So power couple, and how do you prioritize each other and your family before your business to ultimately have the most success in all areas of those parts of your life? And I think this year, especially in the last 6 to 12 months, we've done that where it seemed like we were cutting out a lot of our schedule. But I think what happened was we looked at like, okay, what are your 5 priorities? And then what are your 5 most common behaviors? And do those behaviors support those 5 priorities? And I think there was just some things that didn't. And so we shifted that around, and I think it was scary thinking that, oh, what about these people? We're taking that part of work away. When are they going to come in? And is the business going to be okay? And then we got busier. And I think ultimately when we brought a more excited, at least for me, I stopped realizing what day it was. Like I used to know like, oh, these are my long days. This is the day I can't wait for. And now I have to look at my phone just to kind of get a grip on like, what am I doing? Because I don't even remember. It just doesn't matter. It's all good. Mostly good. And so I think that was a big learning curve of like, there was so much hindrance on who we really wanted to be because of a schedule we imposed on ourselves as a business owner, ultimately creating a job versus an ownership situation. And I think once we prioritized our time first around us and then the kids, everything just, like God just threw all the blessings of a busier business on us because we were finally certain to, I think, do it correctly.
Yeah, I think for me it was a big shift in perspective of realizing the people-pleasing aspect of like, what am I making my schedule for? Is it for me, for my family, for us, serving God? What is it for? And a lot of it was serving the business first. And life doesn't work out that way when you're using that as your primary means of operation. And
I mean, you can try.
Good.
And it seems kind of like it might for a little while, but it's just not sustainable to be outside of who you want to be for that long. It's just too much work. And again, I think that whole, I don't even remember where we heard that, where are your behaviors supporting priorities? And that was just a big wake-up call for me.
And how does that model to the kids too? You know, yes, we have a business and that seems cool to us, but the kids don't care about it if we're not home with them hanging out and doing life with them.
Even like homeschool now, we're doing that, starting this up next week. And a year ago, if you asked me, are you going to homeschool? I would say there's no way. It's not possible. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy now, but at the same time, that choice, like if you look at all the things that build on like what you don't know is coming, right? Like you're on a 100-mile road trip and your headlights only show you 200 feet, but you're cool with that. You just focus on those 200 feet, and we don't think that's weird because we know where we're going. But if we just keep aligning ourselves with like the purpose God has in our heart, and the difficulty in finding that is simplified to like, does it feel good when you're doing this? Is your heart really in it? And I think when you really focus on that, He just takes care of everything else. And I think we've seen that a lot. And now making that choice was super easy because we did the preparation without necessarily knowing what the end goal was going to be. We just knew that in that moment, this felt like what we needed to do because it was serving us and our us and our family first, and then everything else just worked out. And I think that's the big lesson I've learned is power couple used to mean we own 5 clinics and we're the biggest money making people and we're serving the most people and we're doing seminars and we're flying here and there and we've got all these things that we own and have invested in. And not that that's not great, but that's no longer what I think makes me a power couple with you, right? It's like now when the storm comes or when the fire hits, when the the crap hits the fan, it just is like, it's okay now because we've been through so many of those storms, and that's not how if we lose money or we go down or we lose a deal or this or that, like we don't measure our wins on that tangible material stuff anymore. It's a great representation of the work we're doing sometimes, but if something goes wrong, it's not an implosion of the world anymore because it's simply something that's going to redirect us and reprioritize what we're doing. And I think when you build that faith on that consistent action, it just is easier and easier because you level up, and problems that are now a level 4, 5, or 6 when you've gone to a 10, 11, 12 don't seem so big.
Right.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. And I think you and I have seen relationship-wise a massive increase in our patience for each other. Like just the other day I laughed at something that in my head as I was laughing at you, I was like, I normally would get ticked for this, and I don't know why. Why would that make me mad? This is funny. And I just think when your heart is strained in one area consistently, it's going to be strained everywhere. And it's not that you're always going to be the worst of you, but you're not going to be the best of you. And it's a little bit like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I think for us, the reflection that our kids get now of us is just better. And I think,
Present.
yeah, just the presence that we have now is there because we're not thinking about the negativity that we were self-imposing on each other in our life and our business and our goals. So,
Leading that life from the place that we want to live it at instead of admiring where we want to go.
right, and now making a plan to do a 6-week road trip and hopefully a motorhome that we don't have yet, but we're going to find. Next summer, taking 6 weeks off because we've always wanted to. And my first question in my own brain was, how are we going to do this and how's it going to work? And then my next answer was, I don't care. We'll figure it out. I just think it's something we need to do with our kids, and we're going to do it. And why own a business if you're just going to be tied to it like a job?
Amen.
So Jamie, how do you think being a power couple, what does that mean to you, and how do you implement it, coming off of what Bo's saying, in
Yeah, I'm just
your
going.
shift,
It's
right?
difficult.
In your shift, or how do you balance that?
I think for me, I've personally had more of a shift this last year of like what you just said of like, I looked at something that you did and I laughed instead of like having it bother me. And
Right.
I think looking at like, we're a power couple because it's a couple and it's not like a you complete me thing, right? But we are together for a reason. I think that God put us together for a very specific reason to complement each other. And I think that power couple these days to me means more of where do we complement each other? How can we get
Right.
the ultimate job done, the most efficient, the easiest, the least resistance in there? I think that shift for me has just been like, well, less selfish, I guess, is the best way to put that, of more just looking at the situation or maybe how you're responding or reacting to something and looking at it as what is the need here and not how does it make me feel or react.
Yeah, like what do I need to do here versus why is this happening?
Right. Yeah. And then just using that and applying it to all the areas. I think, as us in business, as a married couple, it can be really easy to have the line be a little gray for, where is your husband and wife relationship switching into the business ownership couple. And so I think just looking at how all of it complements each other, because we can't separate those roles. They do all morph. We can't just take off one hat and put on another. I mean, it's like that commercial where the lady's wearing 18 hats, we have all of them on, and how can my hats help fit your hats better?
My
I
head
don't know if
is,
that works.
I mean, figuratively maybe
Use
bigger than
your
yours,
go
but
on top
literally
of it.
it's quite large.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty big.
we'll have to figure that out. But
Different analogy.
no. I mean, it could work. We'll just use beanies. Those stretch.
Yeah.
And
You still need like an extra large beanie then.
there's a lot of brain in there.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I think just taking yourself out, looking at how can I shift my perspective and become more grateful, to then turn that gratitude into some service towards someone else, and then watch that service turn into results. And it's just, you will always reap what you sow. And when you're giving into people and you're sowing into relationships, we're doing this podcast now, not on our cell phones, on a mobile app, because we have an awesome relationship with someone that knows how to do this really cool stuff. And all we got to do is bring our voice, and it's pretty awesome, right? And so there's so many parts of my life that if I were to take out the relationships, which is ultimately what I think we're talking about here, is like prioritizing our relationships first. 99% of my calendar would now be empty. Not just socially, but like, who would I call when I need something, when I need someone, when I don't have an answer and I need help? Like that's how we live, is through those relationships. And then through those relationships, we get an experience that we absolutely fall in love with. And I think that's been the absolute breakthrough with this perspective shift for us, is that if the business is going to be successful, if our family's going to, if anything is going to work with us, the motor, the parts, the cogs in the machine, which are us, the people doing it, have to be at the highest level they can be. So if you want to be powerful and have the results of a, quote, power couple, you have to power yourself, empower yourself. And I think the biggest way to do that is by empowering your spouse first. Well, we can get into that later, but looking to empower your spouse constantly, because that just reciprocates and we mirror each other, and that's a whole other episode too. But
yeah, it's a good episode. Yeah. And power coupling, what I think too, some of that like people pleasing perspective too, of switching, like I think we felt like we were a power couple in the first few years of being business owners, at least, because it was like, oh, like we got this business and like people think that we're doing good, and it's like, well, we actually weren't doing good. And
yeah, there's a lot of ego in it. I think you don't think that your ego's in it, but then if you were to describe yourself, how many things do we list that are material? I'm a business owner, I'm a this, I'm a that, I've been a chiropractor. Like, I just think we misdefined ourselves. And then also, again, back to the people pleasing, is I think now we're just super comfortable being who we are meant to be, made in the image of God, to live that life, to do His will here, and to know that like so many negative things have come back to be the best things in our lives, or led to the best things in our lives. And so to think that that's not happening right now, to think that He's not the same as He was yesterday, like we know He's going to be today, tomorrow, and forever, it's naive and ignorant to not run into problems with a spirit of like, let's go. Let's go see what He's got to teach us now. And I think you get that when we are really strong together. Again, we just keep leveling up to the point where like problems come around and it's not as hard to deal with them. Most of it.
yeah, being humble in the learning every day. What can I learn from this, instead of how is it negatively impacting me?
Yep.
It's hard to do when you're in the moment.
All right, guys, if you made it this far, thank you for listening to the show. We really appreciate you. We've got more content and topics coming up. If you have something you'd like to hear about, please let us know, because we'd like to share info on what you actually want to hear.
And if you can like, comment, and subscribe, that would help us out, and share it with other people who you think would love it too.
Have a good day. Remember, progress, not perfection.
There you go.